searching for the right man, and all she's encountered are unemployed liars or men trying to cop a feel. They all have been a disaster. She continues her endless search in hopes that the right dude is out there.
Hello, welcome to the Date Files, where we talk about dating disasters, dating mishaps, and everything else that goes wrong in the dating world today. So comment, say hi, leave me your story if you would like to be featured on an upcoming episode of the Date Files. So last week, are we still laughing or crying about Mr. Victoria's Secrets? Yeah, let me know what you thought of that one. And this week, the hot seat is Mr. Yucca. Let me know what you think, if he was just clueless, wasn't interested, wanted to be friends, or something else more serious. So, Mr. Yucca and I, we met on a dating app, obviously. He was 10 years older than I was. His kids were older. In fact, they both lived out of state, so something we had in common. He actually lived in the same city as me, and it turned out he lived less than a mile away from me, which was discovered because we were talking about trash schedules. Like one night he mentioned he forgot to take out the trash, and I said, "Oh, you must live on the west side of the city, because that's when my trash pickup is." And he was like super confused that I knew the trash schedule. And I said, "Listen, I've been here for like 47 years. I know the city pretty darn well." I was like, and the trash service on my side is tomorrow too. So whatever. So this guy was in the picture for about 4 months, about 3 months too long, if you ask me, but he seemed all right for the most part. So I'm pretty sure he was, in his mind, he was only wanting to be friends or a pen pal. Who knows? Let me know what you think. Or maybe he thought we were actually boyfriend and girlfriend at one point. So for a month, it was always good morning text, good afternoon, how was your day, good evening, and then a good night. He'd text all of the time, but we never talked on the phone, and we never FaceTimed like Mr. Victoria's Secrets and I did. And then, so a month in, I was visiting a city about an hour away, and he was visiting that same city an hour away. I was in the same shopping center as him, and I said, "Hey, why don't you just come meet me for lunch?" And he was like, "Nope, can't. I have a tight schedule. I have to get somewhere." I was like, "Okay, we've been talking for a month. We live less than a mile away from each other. We haven't had a date." I was like, "We happen to be an hour away from our homes. We are literally in the same shopping center, and we're not meeting." I was like, "What is up with that?" So I was like, maybe he's just wanting to be a pen pal. I was like, maybe he just needs a welfare check. And so he texts every morning, "Hey, I'm still alive." Who knows? So actually, when I was researching some stuff, I came across a dating definition called benching. And I had no idea there were so many dating definitions, but apparently benching is similar to like when you're benched on the team. You're on the team, but you just never get to play. That's how I was thinking this guy was. Like, I was there, but we were never getting onto the date. So who knows? So about 5 weeks into our texting friendship, he finally asks me to dinner. And we sat there for 3 hours. Great conversations. We go to leave, and he just waves and he says, "All right, goodbye," and walks away. I was like, I've had warmer goodbyes with coworkers than I did with that guy. So I was like, okay. I was like, that was weird. But I do get a text message later that night. "Thank you for coming to dinner. I had a great time. I look forward to seeing you again." I was like, wow, that's kind of surprising. I was like, huh. So a couple weeks later, still haven't been on another date, but I still get the good morning text every single day, afternoon and evening text. He texted me, "Hey, have a good time at the gym." Side note, I go to the gym or I go hiking every morning. So that was like his thing, was always have a good hike or have a good time at the gym. And I said, "Well, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still in bed looking at my pants, hoping for some motivation." His response was, "Why, are your pants too small?" I was like, what the bleep did he just say? I was like, he just called me fat. And so I respond, "Well, I guess I'm going to the gym and doing a 10-mile hike today just for that comment." And he's like, "Why would you say that?" He's like, "I just asked you if your pants were too small." Gentlemen, you never tell or suggest that the lady's pants are too small. Even if they are, you know, whatever. But most guys probably wouldn't have had that thought if a lady's telling you, oh, I'm just sitting in bed half naked looking at my pants. But I digress on that one. So several hours later, he calls me, which is a first because we've never actually talked on the phone and we're like 5-6 weeks in. And he's like, oh my goodness. He's like, I did not mean it like that. He goes, I was just telling my friend about our conversation this morning. And my friend told me what an idiot I was. And I was like, oh, at least someone you hang out with realizes that you don't tell a woman her pants are too small. And I was like, well, that's good to know. At least someone's not clueless. So I look past this little comment. And we finally go to lunch about a week later. This month we've been talking for maybe 2 months. At this time, again, we talked for like 2 hours. It was great. And again, it's the bye, see you later, talk to you soon. I was like, wow. I was like, but now the text messages have gone to good night, sweetheart. Good night, my love. And I was like, what? Your love? I was like, huh. I was like, so I start saying good night, friend. He doesn't notice this at all, that I put him in the friend zone. And at this point, we're just texting friends, like whatever. Like I said, he just needs a welfare check. So around the 3rd month in, he says, hey, I'm at that new place for lunch. Why don't you just come join me if you're out for lunch today? And I said, all right, I can do that. I was like, I was driving around. I can stop. So he asks me, he's like, where exactly do you live in our city? And I leave a very vague answer because, you know, we haven't really established that we're in a relationship. So I say, oh, it's on the dirt roads by the mountains. This narrows it down to like 200 to 300 houses. And then again, when we leave that day, it's bye, see you later. Around the 4-month mark, we were actually having a texting conversation more than just good night, how was your day, when I hear a bunch of sirens. So I tell him, hey, hold on, I'm going to go outside because I hear a bunch of sirens. Something's going on outside. So I say, oh, one of my neighbor's house is on fire. Oh my goodness. Disclaimer, the house was okay. It was actually a wooden fence and a couple of their trees. The fire department was amazing, put it out amazingly quick. So back to the guy. So here's the creepy part. The next morning, as I leave for my morning hike, I notice that there's some tire tracks in the dirt road, several of them, and like even like the donut, like the little spinny donut thing. I think, well, there was a lot of looky-loos for the fire last night. Maybe it was one of our neighbors that came up to see which house was actually it. So I mentioned this to him in a text that morning. He said, oh, it was him. He wanted to see where I lived. He saw that there was a fire. Everyone on the neighborhood app and Facebook app and the what's going on pages was talking about it, and they shared the location. So now he know like generally what street I lived on. So he says he drove by at my house at 1:30 in the morning. And he says he had to drive by a couple times because he had to make sure that was my car that was inside the garage. The garage door was open. Note to self, we'll be closing that. And I'm like, wait, hold the phone. What? You drove at my house at 1:30 in the morning just to see what my house was mine because you heard of the fire? He's like, yeah. He's like, I wanted to see where you lived. And I'm like, you don't find that just a little bit creepy? You don't see anything wrong with this? Nope. I was like, so you're okay if I was to drive by your house at 1:30 in the morning just to see where you lived? He goes, yeah, it'd be fine. I'm like, I was like, okay then. Kind of creepy, I think. Maybe it's just being the girl thing. What do you think? Would some guy driving to check out your house in the middle of the night creep you out? So I'm talking to my friend. She says her and her husband are coming over to spend the night, and her husband's going to bring a shotgun. And my first thought was, I'm going to get some security cameras, some motion detection lights. I was like, maybe that dog idea was a good idea. So I stopped talking to this guy. After all his weird comments, his assuming we were dating, and I don't know, driving in the middle of the night by my house, like something wasn't right. Like maybe he was just completely clueless. He was out of the dating scene a while. Who knows? Maybe like at one point I thought he was like borderline autistic just because, like, he didn't get hints, he didn't get the clues. Like, he just said things that were pretty vague with no filter. Or maybe he's just a complete psycho. Who knows? So after four very long months, this guy has been getting ignored and blocked, and there's no more of him. But let me know what you think in the comments. And next week, the guy in the hot seat, we call him Mr. STD Test. Find out why his name is Mr. STD Test. And this week, we also have a sponsor, First Call Security and Sound.
This week's episode was sponsored by First Call Security and Sound. Whether your needs are alarm systems, camera systems, or access control, First Call will care for your home as if it was their very own. At First Call Security, we are large enough to complete any project, yet small enough that we know every client by their first name. Call First Call Security and Sound, and tell them you heard about them from the Date Files. 760-332-8900